There's probably not a name more synonymous with Formula One history than Schumacher, and it might be making a return sooner than you think. Last week, news that went under the radar for most was that Mick Schumacher, son of Michael Schumacher, 7 times world champion, and nephew of Ralf Schumacher, F1 Grand Prix race winner, has joined the Ferrari Driver Academy. Now, this isn't a new story in the sense that Mick Schumacher's come out of nowhere. This guy has been driving since 2015 when he was just 16 years old, and last year was the FIA Formula 3 World Champion. This year, he's going to be making the step up to Formula 2 for the Prima team, but there's still a sneaky chance that Michael Schumacher's son could work his way into Ferrari's full-time Formula 1 seat, and that is exactly what I want to discuss today. So if you enjoy content like this, Formula 1 stories, Formula E stories, all that good stuff, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to find out the latest in Formula 1 news. Now, Schumacher. How likely is it that he's going to get into Formula 1? Well, first, let's go back a little bit, starting at 2016 at his Formula 4 championship. Now, in 2015, he'd done a first attempt at Formula 4, 10th place in the championship, 1 win, his first ever single series season. Okay, 10th place, not setting the world on fire. 2016, his second full year in Formula 2, got second in the championship with the Prima team. And also in that year, did Italian Formula 4 and also got second in that championship. So, a pretty solid job. Then, in the 2016-2017 season of the MRS Challenge Formula 2000, he got third. And then 2017 was his first, I suppose, big exposure to the world of motorsport. FIA Formula 3, so another step up. And Formula 3 is the kind of times where Formula 1 teams are really starting to look at the next talent and the next line of Formula 1 drivers. We've seen the likes of Esteban Ocon, Max Verstappen, even Lance Stroll work their way from Formula 3 straight into Formula 1. And so many drivers, if they're good enough, make that step up. But in his first year of Formula 3, it did not go plain sailing for Mick Schumacher. 12th place overall in the standings, no wins, and just 1 single podium. However, in 2018 was this guy's second chance in Formula 3. And people were starting to question after his first year in Formula 3, does this guy have the talent? Is he going to live up to the Schumacher name? And just as he did in Formula 4, had a first year just to get to know the championship, and the second year, smash it. And that's exactly what Schumacher did, winning the European FIA Formula 3 Championship comfortably over drivers like Dan Ticktum and Yuri Vips, 2 drivers that are seen as potential Formula 1 stars, especially Dan Ticktum. It wasn't the cleanest of seasons from Schumacher. He didn't pick up his first race win until the 15th round in Spa, a track where his father, Michael Schumacher, got his first ever Formula 1 start and his first ever Formula 1 win. But Schumacher also was able to pick up wins in Silverstone, won every single race in Germany at the Nürburgring, and also picked up 2 race wins and a 3rd place in Austria to seal the championship. Now, it was an incredible season for Schumacher, it really was. And this year, making the step up into Formula 2 is going to be key for him. Because if you don't make it in Formula 2, you don't make it in Formula 1. Very rarely do we see even midfield drivers in Formula 2 make it into Formula 1. Yes, there is exceptions. You look at the likes of Sergei Sirotkin. You look at the likes of, I suppose, Jolyon Palmer to a degree, although he did end up going and winning Formula 2, or GP2 as it was known back then, but that was a particularly poor year for the series. Felipe Nasr, Marcus Ericsson, guys that didn't necessarily excel in Formula 2, but still got that chance. However, that being said, for the last 2 years of Formula 2, I think we've had some of the best grids of all time. We had Charles Leclerc pushing his way through to Formula 1 in 2017. Last year we had George Russell and Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Jack Aitken, Nick De Vries, Artem Markelov, all drivers that really could jump into Formula 1 and do a solid job. And a lot of that field that I've just mentioned are still going to be in Formula 2 next year. Like Jack Aitken, like Nick De Vries. We've also got drivers like Antoine Hubert, who won the GP3 championship. We have Callum Ilott moving up into Formula 2 as well. All of this talent coming to Formula 2, it's really becoming a difficult place to move into Formula 1. And that is because of the backlog and, I suppose, the difficulty of drivers just to stay in Formula 1. You've even got the likes of Esteban Ocon, who can't find a seat. We've got drivers like Pascal Wehrlein, who are having to move to Formula E. It's really becoming a difficult situation. And it's something that future drivers to Formula 1 are going to have to absolutely excel. They're going to have to work their socks off if they want to find a seat. However, if a driver is able to find their way into an academy, that makes things a whole lot easier. We've seen that with the likes of Lando Norris in the McLaren Driver Academy, George Russell in the Mercedes Driver Academy, and even Pierre Gasly a few years ago. He was GP2 World Champion and he got that chance in Formula 1 because he was part of the Red Bull Young Driver Academy. Now, with Schumacher being in the Ferrari Young Driver Academy, this asks a few questions. So, for the sake of this video, let's assume that in Schumacher's first year of Formula 2, he doesn't set the world on fire. And I think that would be unfair to assume he's going to do that because of the talent. And again, it is a step up Formula 2. But let's say in his second season, he has a real fight for the title. Doesn't necessarily win the thing, but gives it a real chance and a real go. Then what happens? Well, he won't go straight into a Ferrari. That's definitely not going to be the case. We even saw with superstar Charles Leclerc, who in his rookie year of Formula 2 absolutely wiped the field. They put him in a Sauber, which they expected to be right at the back of the field. So, although the name Schumacher would be an incredible marketing tool, at the end of the day, Ferrari are not a team that is their sole focus. I purely believe that. I think they are one of the teams, unlike the likes of Red Bull, that their primary focus is to win. And I do generally believe that. And I think each different team has a different ethos. So now the question becomes, where does he go? Well, if you're an avid follower of Formula 1, you will know that Ferrari supplies engines to the Haas team and the Sauber team. And it's very common in Formula 1 that drivers that are within a driver academy end up in teams supplied by Ferrari. So Charles Leclerc was at Sauber this year. Antonio Giovinazzi will also be at Sauber for this season. Both of them Ferrari Academy drivers. So it makes logical sense that Schumacher would first get a chance in either Sauber or Haas F1. And I actually think either of them are going to be a solid option. Haas generally seem to be seen more as an independent team in their own right. They don't really like to be seen as a Ferrari B team, whereas Sauber, that this year in Formula 1 will have Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi, both Ferrari drivers. So it seems like Sauber are very open to be a Ferrari B team. And I think it makes perfect sense for Schumacher, considering we're assuming for the next 2 years he'll be in Formula 2. That's going to be perfect timing with Kimi Räikkönen retiring from Formula 1. Because he has said he wants to do 2 seasons at Sauber and then retire most likely. And so there's a seat there, perfect for Schumacher. And at the same time, if Giovinazzi if he's a sort of midfield driver, a couple of years of experience, him as a teammate, his first teammate in Formula 1 would be a really good dynamic. And I think that's something that would work particularly well and slot him into Formula 1 really nicely. And then comes the question, how good does he have to be to get into that Ferrari? Well, first of all, Charles Leclerc I don't think is going anywhere. I think he's the real deal and will be a world champion. But the other question mark is who's going to be alongside Leclerc? Because I think even if Leclerc struggles against Vettel for the next couple of years, I think eventually natural progression will put Leclerc in front of Vettel. And then the question mark is, will Sebastian Vettel stay at Ferrari? And looking at 2 or 3 seasons down the line, that's going to be the big one. And I can see if Sebastian Vettel leaves Ferrari in the next 2 years, yes, they'll get a short-term replacement. And if Schumacher is good enough, he will end up in a Ferrari. Will he be world champion? I'll leave that up to you guys. I really will. That's going to be so hard to call. Chuck your answers in the comments below. But Mick Schumacher, a Ferrari Driver Academy driver, I want to know your thoughts. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.